Welcome, Army fans. This is Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com, along with a special parents perspective. The parents of the 2024 Army co-captains, Bryson Daly and Max DiDomenico. Of course, first from, I believe, the San Antonio area, right, Tracy?
Yes.
We have Tracy DiDomenico, and then from the Austin area, we have Daryl and Christy Daly. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing great.
Very good.
Yes, very
Good.
well, thank you.
Good. So I guess we'll start with Tracy and then Daryl and Christy can answer. Tracy, with graduation only being probably a little less than a month out at this point, how are you feeling as a parent, as a mom? Are you excited? Are you proud? Or are you kind of nervous for this phase of your life to transition? What are the feelings?
Honestly, I'm not nervous. This is the first time I have not been nervous the entire time Max has been at West Point. I am so proud. I am so excited. Like the day is finally here. And what's crazy is how fast the 4 years has gone. I feel like we just dropped him off, you know. Um, we're so excited. We cannot wait to travel to New York, celebrate Max. It's just going to be a fun, proud day.
Awesome. And Daryl and Christy, you guys have had a busy spring. I saw you all at the College Football Hall of Fame about a month ago for the Maxwell Awards when Daryl got, or when Bryson got an award, along with Coach Munkin. I know you kind of were doing the award circuit for a while there. What are you guys feeling with only a month or so out from graduation?
I think Tracy summed it up pretty well. It's amazing for us. It was 5 years because Bryson went to the prep school. Um, they talk about how fast it goes by. You don't think so when you're in the middle of it, but it really does. We've gotten so close with his teammates, those families. We don't really know what we're going to do with ourselves after this time, but it's been great, and we are so proud and so excited for not only him but all of his firsty people. So we're thrilled for him and the next chapter, whatever that may be.
Yeah,
Great.
it does, like everybody said, it goes quick. It's just like high school, it went quick. Now, went to college and it's fixing to end, but it's just one of those things. It's been a great ride.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's probably from eighth grade through the end of college. It's a very quick 8 years. As parents, I ask the players this all the time, but as parents, what would you say your number one lesson or takeaway is as a parent of an Army football player? This time I'll start with Daryl and then Christy and then Tracy.
Well, learn that you need a wife that can organize plane trips and all that, or otherwise Bryson probably wouldn't ever gone to West Point because we couldn't have got all that stuff done. It was me, but uh, you just enjoy it, and it's hard. It's hard doing all the travel and all that stuff, but it's worth it. Every bit is worth it.
I would think the biggest takeaway is compared from high school to college is the how much difference it is. All of our kids were the stars on their respective teams, and all of a sudden they're standing on the sideline, and that's hard to do and hard to watch. But their time is coming, and they waited and were patient and figured out what was going on. And man, he had some great mentors up above him and coaches as well, to keep him motivated and, hey, your time is coming, and I'm sure Max felt the same way. But every little piece of playing time that they got was just exciting, and they were just so happy to do anything and everything for the team.
Awesome. Gino, welcome. We're glad you got the technical issues figured out. We appreciate you joining
Wow.
us from the cold north up there in Canada. So appreciate it. We only started a couple minutes ago, so thanks for the extra effort. Tracy, how about you? Number one lesson or takeaway as being the parent of an Army football player?
Not to be able to sleep. There were numerous nights, honestly, where I didn't sleep, just worried because Max would either have a bad day in class or a bad day in practice or whatnot. And like to back up on what Christy said, it's not high school anymore. They're fighting. They were the star players, and now they're starting from the bottom up. And it was just to not worry about it was worrying more about his mental views on everything because he would get disappointed and then the next day he would be up. So for me as a mom would be to not sweat the small stuff and have a good sleep at night.
That's good stuff. There is definitely a lot of disappointment and mental testing at West Point that goes on for every cadet, but especially the Army football players. Gino, I was asking the other parents, kind of as an Army football parent, what is your biggest lesson or takeaway from the last 4 years? And we just lost Gino's video
Of course we
and
did.
audio just when I asked him the question. So we'll
Yep.
get back to him. But
Okay.
next question for Tracy. Gino, you're back on video,
But
but
you're
you're
on
on
mute.
mute. And now you're not. Whatever. You'll get back.
All
This
right.
is gonna be good.
There we
Charles is
Am I
go.
gonna
good
love
now?
this.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Charles is gonna love
Sorry.
how much he's gonna
It-
have to edit this. So
yeah. Apologize. It was one of those things where all of a sudden I couldn't talk, I couldn't do anything, it just locked up. So to answer your question again, just make sure I heard it fully. Could you, if you mind, don't asking it
Yeah,
again?
the kind of your number one, I ask the players this a lot, but as a parent, what's your number one takeaway or lesson from the last 4 years with Max being an Army football player?
For me as a dad, um, it wasn't so much the worrying, it's the how he grew up. From when you dropped him off at our day to where he is now, the man that he became, the way he speaks, um, it's a very dynamic change for me from going as, oh, you're graduating high school to, oh my God, you're now graduating West Point. And in that 4 years, it's the transformation of a man, from, you think they're men going in at 18 years old, but now that they're 21, 22, it's like, wow, just that transformation for me is what really separates him from a lot of people that I know because I still see a lot of his friends in the town and in the neighborhood, and it's night and day. It's night and day, and it's funny, and I think it's just that experience of being with other individuals, understanding what teamwork is, and really understanding what it takes to succeed, not only as an individual but as a team, and then taking it one next further with football and just the experiences he's had with that, I think really is what for me is what I didn't worry as much like my wife did, unfortunately. I did, but it was for me, it
That's
was just watching him grow up as a man. So
Yeah, I think that's the difference between being a mom and being a dad. I can vouch for that. I'm glad you got your technical issues fixed, Gino, because that was an outstanding answer. I think anybody who has a son that played football at Army or that's gone to West Point, yeah, it's the person, the man they are at 22 versus where they were at 18 is completely a transition, and you know especially like you said, when they come back home compared to their high school classmates, it's night and day difference. So
right.
really good stuff. At West Point, we talk about choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. It's part of the cadet prayer. And in today's college football landscape, there's a lot of distractions. And what I and a lot of other folks that I've been talking with recently call short-term gratification being thrown around by agents and NIL collectives and other colleges and whatever else. Tracy and Gino, start with you guys, and then we'll go over to Daryl and Christy. How excited are you as parents of Max and Bryson that they chose to stick it out? Staying at West Point under any circumstances is difficult, but especially as a D1 athlete, choosing to stick it out and choose the harder right. And as a result, ended up being co-captains of one of the best teams in the modern era of Army football and winning a number of postseason awards and accolades and just everything that they were able to accomplish over their junior and firstie season.
Well, for,
So
for me, Max appreciated Army, West Point. He learned their values and whatnot. So that really helped when it comes to NIL and all that, because he didn't just learn football, he learned so much more. And he ended up appreciating that he's got a huge future ahead of him. It's not just football. He's going to go to great places. And all of those people, players, and just the cadets alone, they've got great places to go. And I think they look at the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Gino?
yeah, to add on top of that, I think, you know, I know for Max personally, there was a few people that I know through the grapevine that, probably did reach out to Max and say, "Hey, look, you have a chance to go somewhere else and other opportunities." But Max has always been that guy that would never he wants the challenge of I want to take the team I'm with and let's see how good we could really be. And so he realized that going into his junior year, he's like, Dad, I'm set. I know what I want. I know where I want to be. I want to help this team be the best team there was. And I think that's why, especially I think Max and Bryson, they both had that quality, and I think that's why they became captains this year, is because I think the rest of the team saw that leadership in them. They were willing to put the sacrifice for themselves to make themselves better, and that's what kind of brought the team together. And I think they were kind of the glue that really stuck this team together and did what they did this year to have the record. And like you said, one of the best teams in modern era for Army. You take those two guys out of that mix, and I think you know it's an average Army team, and I think it's not just skill level. I think their leadership is what really dominated and brought this group together.
Awesome. Daryl and Christy, how about you guys?
I'll let Chrissy.
Don't let me go first.
Let you go.
Well, I agree with both what Gino and Tracy said. I think this was a very tight knit group, and I know that that's hard thing when you're at Army is you do so many things with your class, and you only get to know your class a lot of times. I think this group of firsties did a great job of trying to include, because we had lots of contributors that weren't firsties. We had lots of people on the team that were we needed them. Absolutely. You look at that offensive line. We needed all of those guys working as a unit together. And, I think that they did a great job of bringing in everybody and making everybody feel welcome. It was, something that I'm so glad that they got to be a part of. But I think, Gino hit the nail on the head. I think the leadership there was just impeccable, and including, of course, Kyle and Cody as well. Just
Mhm.
great guys that talk about spanning the whole team as far as being able, Cody has that experience that you can't do without. Max and Bryson being the respective leaders on each side of the ball. And then, Kyle, even him overcoming injury and overcoming everything that he had to, I just think it meant so much to this team for the leaders and the way that they were.
Yeah, it's watching them go through all those years, and Bryson in one of the interviews said, that first year was tough for him, and it was for all of them. But when he was sitting in there with 11 other guys, and he's trying to figure out, am I going to play? But he had captains above him. He had leaders above him come and tell him, "Hey, just stick it out. Your time's coming." And that's Max played a little earlier in his career. Bryson sitting on the sideline watching those guys play, and just kept working. And that's just that's just his personality, and that's Max, and that's all those guys. It's like Bryson said when he got recruited. Why'd you go to West Point? Well, a bunch of guys like me.
That's a very good summary. Yep. When I think of an Army football player, I think of Bryson Daly. And there's so many guys on the team that are just like that. So super cool. So with Bryson and Max both graduating, and I know I've had conversations with them about this, but what will they be branching and what will be their first assignments or posts in the big army after they complete Bullock? So Daryl and Christy, I think Bryson's going infantry, right? Where is he going to be stationed?
Well, he's right now at Fort Cavazos. I want to say Fort Hood all the time, but Fort Cavazos.
Yeah,
He's gonna
it's Fort
he's gonna
Hood. Sorry, people.
It is.
yeah. But he's actually he did engineering with a tag on of infantry, which basically is infantry.
Okay, so he's got the branch detail. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, the branch detail, and then he's going to start out coaching the prep team
Yep.
next fall, which is going to be fun, and exciting. That's probably kind of in his blood. And then of course wherever they send him for the Ranger stuff or Fort Benning, and I've heard Florida, he knows a lot more than that than I do.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Mountain Phase is actually not too far from where I live here in North Georgia. It's about an hour
right,
north of me. And yeah, and then the swamp phase or whatever it is down in Florida, and then they do the desert phase out in El Paso, Fort Bliss, Texas, I think, if it's still the
Okay.
same as it used to be. So yeah. How about for Max, Gino and Tracy? What's he got planned for the big army?
So he wanted Fort Cavazos, but he ended up at Fort Bliss. So he will be in Texas, but it will be in El Paso. So that's where he'll end up. But he's actually going to do his first 6 months there, helping coach the prep team as well with Bryson. Then he does his Bullock in Fort Sill because he will be going field artillery, and then he'll be going to Fort Bliss after that, and then kind of to what Daryl said, where are they going with Ranger School or whatever else he's trying to get into. Uh, they know more than we do at this point, but
Right.
uh, but that is where that is the game plan as of we speak today.
Good stuff. And I'll tell you from experience as a former air defender, Bliss isn't as bad as everybody makes it out to be. El Paso is actually a pretty cool town. A lot of really good
yeah.
steakhouses there, great Mexican food. So it's a good place. It's not bad. It's just you're kind of like millions of miles from anywhere. So that's about the only issue with it. So let's see. Oh yeah, this is a good one. This is second to last question. A little bit on the personal side, and you can divulge or not divulge. I'll allow you the fifth on this if you want. But we all know West Point cadets can't be married. I know Bryson's got a very serious girlfriend in Conley. I'm not sure about Max's personal life, but any weddings on the horizon after graduation?
He's going to a lot of weddings.
Yeah, I was going to say he's going to be a guest.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Any other football players getting married that we need to talk about?
Brett Jarena is getting married about a week after graduation.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
and I think Matt Rhodes.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
There's a few.
There's a few.
He's going to try to be at as many, as he can in June.
They unfortunately only have 30 days because they have to be back up there.
Right.
So I think
For
he was
football
sprinkling
practice.
some weddings in there, but none on the personal side as of yet. So
Okay. Good to know. So similar story for Max.
So, well, Max had a girlfriend since high school, and then they had the breakup this
Oh.
year. So it was planned. No, it's all good. It's all good. It
Okay.
worked out.
Like,
It was
man,
rough.
you were talking
It was
about
a rough.
all the difficulties and disappointments. He had to handle that on top of everything
Oh,
else.
it was a rough couple of months, trust me. But no, but so
The
Max
arm
also
injury
has
wasn't bad enough.
it was rough. It was
Put
rough,
this
but
girl
no,
on
it all
blast.
worked out after. And so Andre Miller's also getting married. So Max will be at that
Okay.
wedding as well.
Oh
So
yeah.
lots of weddings on the
Yeah.
horizon.
Yeah, that's the pretty much the month after graduation, you're like on the wedding circuit. And then you like if you're lucky, you get to have a couple weeks to just enjoy yourself before you go back
Exactly.
to work.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So last question for y'all. What would, and we'll start with Daryl and Christy on this one. What would you say to any parents out there? Because there's all varying degrees of experience and knowledge and understanding about what West Point is and what it can do for a kid and what it can do for their future. Obviously, it's done a ton for Bryson and Max as an institution, but also the Army Football Brotherhood. What would you say, Christy and Daryl, to any parents of maybe a high school junior out there or senior whose son's a pretty good football player and he's got a couple different options for football, but Army's one of them? What would you say, based on Bryson's experience and your experience, kind of being part of the family that goes along with the Brotherhood for the last 4 to 5 years? What would you say to those parents who are considering potentially sending their sons to West Point, with all the concerns that comes with every parent? Gosh, do I want my son to go into the Army and really, face some risk and blah blah blah? Kind of, what would be your advice to those parents?
I think you have to, for us, I think you have to trust your son or daughter. You have to trust them. He made the, you talked about growing up, Gino. We saw that same thing with Bryson. And when he got through with his visit, he was ready to commit. I mean, he was ready, not of the Hudson, he was ready to commit, but his sisters kind of talked him down off the ledge and said, "Hey, let's think about this, what we're doing." But the more he was exposed to it and the more he realized, again, they were all his type of people. He wasn't going to have to worry about somebody not showing up for practice or not being where they were supposed to be, because somebody was going to find them if they weren't where they were supposed to be. But you have to trust them because he believed everybody was like him. And I think that's the biggest thing. You have to trust them to make that decision. And man, when they make it, and it is so intelligent and well thought out, and you think they're thinking about their future. He said, I may never get on the field, but the experience, and he heard that from so many old grads even before he ever stepped foot on campus. Everybody that we've ever met along this journey, "Oh, this is the best thing ever. Oh, you're going to West Point." Oh, I mean, people are so impressed with that. um, and there's a reason why, because it's the few, and the proud. It really is. And just for him to be able to have that choice, and again, let your kid make that choice, even though it's a hard one. It's their life for sure.
I've had some
Great
calls.
advice, Christy.
I had a call yesterday. I've had some high school coaches that their kids have been recruited by West Point, and trying to make decisions. And some guys I've known, some other coaches that I knew of that I've never really met personally. The guy yesterday had a really good running back that was offered by Army, and he's been offered by Navy, Air Force, and a couple other D1s. And I just tell them, I said, first of all, you got to make sure that they want to be in the military. They understand that and understand the grind of it. How hard it is. Is he a kid that can handle that? And then, it's unbelievable what they can achieve by staying there, but they have to understand it's not the easiest place in the world, you know, but it's been so worth it, even for us have to travel and all that type of stuff. It's been a great place, and I'm sure glad he went there, and I hope that you get a lot of great athletes keep coming through there.
That was good stuff, Daryl. Thank you. Tracy, go ahead.
Max has had a few players reach out to us and coaches. And the best thing I could tell them was talk to Max. And we're honest with them. It's tough. It's tough. But at the end of the road, it's so worth it. I mean, you've got friends for life. These guys are all best friends for life. They could call each other 3 years, 10 years from now, and they're going to be there for them. You've got a guaranteed career no matter where. You've got West Point on your resume, you know, and for me, the biggest thing I tell new moms, new dads, or potential moms, potential dads is the big picture. It's always the big picture.
Yeah, you nailed it, Tracy. I mean, that's what whenever my friends are talking to me about their kids or whatever, and I say, look, like no guarantees, but if you go through and you do it, A, you'll have the best friends you've ever had in your life, and B, you're right. Like I've never had to worry about money
A job.
or a job or like what it's like never a concern. Like, okay, if I lose one, I can walk into an interview room and get like, I could just throw my resume out there and I get like 100 interviews like within a
Yeah.
couple of weeks. It's never a concern. Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gio. You're muted again, by the way. So, but he can get his audio working. He's got so much, he's like got so much wisdom, but when the audio and
Sorry
video.
about that. There we
Oh,
go.
I mean, just an FYI, he's an IT guy.
Oh, that makes
Yeah, the
sense.
problem is like I said, I'm in a, when you keep getting blocked by a foreign country.
Exactly. You're up there
But
with like the moose and stuff. So
exactly. So for me, when I get asked and I talk to kids or parents, I first tell them, aside from football, everybody knows what you're going to get out of football, right? You're going to get what you put in. But I first tell them about the education. All right, the level of education you're going to get coming out of West Point is going to be far exceeding than anything else you're going to experience at any big D1 college or whatever you're going to. So then the second level is to what Daryl was saying is the what comes after that, right? The understanding that you are going to be joining the military and you are going to be looking into you are going to be committing to something that for 5 years, right? So understand that that goes with the commitment. But I said at the end of the day, the experience you're going to get with football, and here's one thing, and we had a running joke about this. Daryl knows who I'm talking about, and you know as well. Frank Harris, who was the quarterback at UTSA, right, was there
yep.
forever. He's one of the better quarterbacks in UTSA's history. Really good, close family friends. We were
Oh,
having this
really? Okay.
conversation. Really, we were having this conversation, and Max goes to him. He goes, I've played in 4 NFL stadiums, and then he said we went back to Philly again, so 5, and then I played in New York, New York Stadium. Says, how many have you played in? And you're a big time quarterback, right? So it was like the experiences that he had,
Wow.
although it was Army, he had more experiences in bigger stadiums and
That's
bigger
wild.
venues. And it was one of those things
Especially
where
because Frank Harris has been playing since Vince Lombardi was in high school. So
it,
I
it feels like that. It definitely feels like that. But so it was like little things like that that I throw as nuggets to a lot of these kids or their parents. And it was things like that that they never took that into consideration, right? They just heard the name or saw the name, and I said there's a real pride that goes with having Army as your name instead of just your name on the back of the chest, on the back. I said, Army is a brotherhood that is no other. As my wife said, you're going to have these friends for life. These guys are going to be always there, and you can't change that life experience. For 5 short years, if you don't do any more in the military, it's not that bad when you look at it. And the other thing I do tell them is you got to embrace the suck as a freshman. If anybody knows, you know the expression, right? It's gonna suck, so embrace it.
yep.
Because if you try to fight it, that's when you become miserable. But if you embrace it, you know what to expect, then there's nothing that you can't do after that. So
Spot on, Gino. That was great. That was really good. Yeah, I'll never forget. Your first day at Cadet Basic Beast, you report to the cadet in a red sash, and the one thing I always remember that he told me is he said, "New cadet, no matter what, never lose your sense of humor." And so that was if you kind of make everything fun and make it a joke. Now, every once in a while it would get me in trouble. Gosh, I kind of you're just losing your military bearing everywhere. Well, yeah, that's because the stuff's funny, but whatever. Yeah. So, hey, y'all, thank you very much. Tracy had to drop, I guess, so we're only allowed one D Domenico at a time. Remember
Yeah, well,
that.
she just lost internet at our house, so she just let me know. She just lost it.
This is really
So
good for the IT guys.
yeah,
This is
especially
great.
when we're in two different areas.
So,
We're
hey,
gonna have to
thank you
move to
all
the
very much
Wimberley
for your
area with
time. I
the
know
band.
there's other things you could be doing on a Wednesday night other than talking to me, so I super appreciate it. It was an absolute pleasure covering your sons this year. I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now, and it was an absolute pleasure covering both your sons and the teams. They were always super gracious with us as the media, so we really appreciate it. And the parents, I don't want to play favorites because I've got a lot of parents who I stay in touch with all throughout the years, but this was definitely one of my favorite groups of parents, and definitely going to miss working with you guys. Hopefully, you'll have some nephews and nieces or something in the future that will come through West Point that we can work with. So,
Well, thank you, Joe, for all that you
Thank
do.
you,
We
Joe.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
thank you very
Hey, if there's
much.
anything, Joe, though, if there's one thing that I would like, because I get a little frustrated now that they decided to move on, is Bryson and Max, they chose not to do pro day. They could have very easily been doing pro day, and I think not get recruited, but I bet you Bryson's gotten some phone calls. Max has gotten some
I'm
phone
sure.
calls
Yeah.
even after the pro day. So, I commend these boys for making the choices that they've made, and they realize that they value their career more than just football. So if there's anything you can push, at least for me, is hey, these kids had a choice, but they chose the army life instead. And instead of knocking them, we should really stand up for them. So
Absolutely, 100%. I think it's funny, as soon as I get done with you, I'm not supposed to give times. Later this week, GBK will be releasing a podcast with Steve Kripke, who's a an old grad as well. He works with Crawdads Countdown to Kickoff,
Oh yeah.
and he's a GBK subscriber. And the primary focus of our podcast is going to be around the questions I asked you guys earlier around NIL and portal and why staying at West Point matters and why it's a good decision. But yeah, to even take it out another step further is, nothing wrong with the kids who did decide to do a pro day and want to go pursue their NFL dreams and come back to football later. Absolutely. But one of the things Charles and I talk about all the time is it was great that at the spring game, they had Cole Christensen and John Radigan and Elijah Riley as the honorary captains. And I love all those guys. Cole's been great on our program. So is John. Big fan of all of them. But what we'd like to see is how about we highlight some Army officers and some guys who've made it to general that came through the Army football program or made it to battalion commander or brigade commander. Or how about we highlight like an Anthony Noto who was the captain of the 1991 team when I was there, inside linebacker, and now he's the CEO of SoFi. There's because the kids
Yeah.
have to know, yeah, you may make the NFL, but it is a really, really small sliver. But there's a lot of other benefits and advantages of going to West Point, and serving your country certainly should not be undermined or underappreciated. And believe me, we are super appreciative at GBK of all the kids who choose the Army route. There's certain fans who love to hear about the NFL guys, but believe me, we're all for pro Army football and pro military career since that's what a lot of us have done. So very in favor of that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. Well, Army fans, it's been a pleasure. This is Joe Iacono with Daryl and Christy Daly, Gino DiDomenico, Tracy DiDomenico, whose internet went out. And we have, as I mentioned, some other podcasts coming up this week. Make sure you catch my interview with UGA Sports, Roddy Nabolsi, from earlier this week when we were talking about Elo Mendoza and the transfer portal and the Georgia team coming up for this year. And please go ahead and do us a favor. Our subscriptions on our YouTube channel, which is totally free, despite what some other people on the internet may be saying about us. Our YouTube channel is 100% free. And please subscribe to that, give us a like, and continue to keep bolstering our subscriptions because we love doing what we're doing, and it'll help us keep bringing you guys the best, most personalized content around Army football. Go Army!